Nearly 150 videos posted already on this channel, and I've never talked about the role of a QA, which is weird because I get questions around this topic a lot. What's the role of a QA in Scrum? How does testing even work in Scrum? How does testing look like in Scrum? So many questions, a lot of confusion around this topic, and this is exactly what we'll try to clear out in this video. First off, you need to understand that the Scrum framework can be applied to any kind of business. So the role of a QA tester, other roles like UX, UI, not mentioned in the Scrum framework, simply because it would be limiting. As per the Scrum guide, the developers, the role of a developer, the developers are responsible for every piece of work required to create this potentially shippable increment of a product. So there's no titles in Scrum. Only developers. The team includes the Scrum Master, the product owner, and developers, which means in our context that this testing part, this QA part, is simply a QA activity which resides inside the team. Someone, a specific person, can do that inside the team. Doesn't matter, but the whole team should be responsible and accountable for this activity. The Scrum Guide is very clear concerning this part. Developers, no job titles, developers in the team, but still, companies, they like hiring specific people, QA people, and put them in Scrum teams. This person will only do QA activities, and that's limiting for the team, but more on this later. For now, let's talk about how testing even works in Scrum, and for this we need to start with quality. There's two types of quality in Agile and Scrum. First, intrinsic quality, all the built-in qualities possessed by the product, maintainability, sustainability, durability, all these other things, and we can test that. We can use escaped defects to know that, to test that. We can use bugs per line of code to do that. Then there's intrinsic quality, basically from the perspective of a customer, how much value the product is bringing, a usage of a product, feedback from the customer. There's tons of ways to test that. But when we talk about quality in a Scrum team, when people talk about quality, most of the time they are referring to intrinsic quality, the testing part. And this brings us to the QA part. Many companies like hiring specific people, quality assurance, QA specialists, to do this testing part, ensure the intrinsic quality of a product. These people are responsible for the validation and verification, ensuring that the business requirements and technical requirements are respected, answering the question, are we building the product right? Now, who ensures, who is responsible and accountable for quality in Scrum? The QA? Well, as per the Scrum Guide, the developers are accountable for instilling quality by adhering to a definition of done. Developers, not the QA. Developers, remember, as per the Scrum Guide, there's no such thing as QA. There's only developers, and these developers are responsible and accountable for all this QA part, all this testing part, checking this intrinsic quality. But that's as per the book, as per the Scrum Guide. In reality, there's two ways companies usually handle this QA part of things. First, I don't like that, but I need to mention that the coders, the developers, do the coding part, and then they move the build to another team full of QAs, a team 100%, all the QAs, to do the testing. So the developers do the coding part, they move it to another team to do the QA. I don't like this approach. This approach doesn't work simply because you're taking work and moving it to a dependent team. Remember, in Scrum, the team should be cross-functional. They should have all the competencies to be able to build the product and release the product, build this shippable, potentially shippable increment every single sprint. And they can't do that alone if they need another team to do the QA. No, that doesn't work. Dependencies should be reduced in Scrum. There's a reason why teams should be cross-functional, because dependencies kill Scrum. But luckily for us, this scenario is pretty rare. I haven't seen it in many companies. What is very common, though, is the QA specialist. This person, this specialist in QA in testing, added to the Scrum team, not considered as a developer. No, something else. This person doesn't do development. This person only does the QA part of things, the testing part of this, the ensuring intrinsic quality part of things. So developers in the team, they do the development, they do the coding, and the QA person, the QA specialist, does all the testing. I also don't like this approach. Just imagine, picture this. You are running 2 weeks sprints. One day prior to the end of a sprint, all the development, all the coding done, all the unit testing done, the QA column on the Scrum board, full packed, 10 items. All the developers are done. We are chilled, and the QA person are testing all the things. They are testing 10 things to test in one day to end the sprint. And what typically happens is nothing gets done only because the QA single person, 3 developers, 4 developers, 5 developers doing all the coding, and a single person doing the testing. One day prior to the sprint, all this work, people can't help each other because a single person in the team is doing all the testing. Doesn't make any sense. The team should be able to self-organize, self-manage themselves, help each other work. And this is very hard to do when you have a single person in the team doing all the testing, have all the accesses to do the testing, all the knowledge to do the testing. This person can't code, so they can't help the developers, and the developers can't help this person because the developers don't know how to do the QA part of things. Doesn't work, doesn't make any sense. The team should be self-organized, self-managed, and cross-functional. They should be able to help each other. Remember what's important in Scrum: getting things done. Not starting things only, no, getting things done, working on only a few things, focusing on priority items, getting things done, then taking another item, getting it done, and it goes on, and you can't do that when you have specific teams, sub-teams in a single team. Yeah, you have a development team and a QA team in a single Scrum team. Just imagine planning, the nightmare of planning 2 teams, 2 sub-teams in a single team. So you need to estimate the work for the QA part of things, and then you need to estimate the work for the development part of things. Doesn't make any sense. Just have developers in the team, developers doing the testing, helping each other, developers doing the coding, doing the testing. There's many ways to tackle this situation. Here's what I like using, but obviously you can experiment with this approach, with this method. If it works, you keep using it. If it doesn't work, stop using it, find another approach. First, if you insist in having a separate QA team, that's fine. That's fine. If you insist on having a separate, I don't like this approach, but if you insist in having a separate QA team, the way I would do it is refining the definition of done. So the definition of done, we basically tell that the developers need to do the coding part and ensure the quality. They do the testing. Not only the unit testing, but most of the testing, and the product owner will just agree that this build, this product, the thing that has been developed has sufficient quality to be moved to this independent QA team, this other team which is outside the sprint, completely outside the sprint. So you're basically done. As soon as the product owner gets the thing done, marks the item done because it contains sufficient quality, the thing moves to another team, which ensures all the QA part of things, ensures that the documentation is right. Does the testing again, the regression testing, maybe performance testing, all the QA related things. And as the developers also did the testing, there shouldn't be many issues when the QA do the testing. And the cool part is that you remove that completely from the sprint. So this doesn't affect the velocity of a sprint. The team is still cross-functional. They can do every single thing. And they can help each other because all the developers are doing the development and also doing the testing. I don't like this approach, but it's better than nothing. It's a start. What I like doing instead of the approach I like using is obviously developers both doing the coding and the testing. Same job titles, no job titles, everyone equal in the team, helping each other. A truly cross-functional and self-organized team. Now, if you insist, many companies I know insist on having a QA specialist in the team, and that's fine. But don't fall into the trap of having this only person doing the testing. That's wrong. That's wrong. There's a better approach. Everyone in the team should be doing the testing. The QA specialist is the QA specialist, the most advanced person in terms of how testing is supposed to work, how to write test scripts, how to do all the testing side of things, how to write all the scripts for automation testing. This person should coach the developers on how to do all these things, and everyone in the team should do the testing. Not only the QA person, obviously the QA person will do the testing, but developers should be able to do the testing also. They should be coached by the QA specialists. If a QA column on the Scrum board is booked, so packed with many items, one day prior to the end of a sprint, everyone should be able to help to get things done. And remember that the whole team should be responsible and accountable for quality. Quality doesn't simply mean testing. No, they need to ensure that the whole process from start to end is quality-centric. Even when coding, we need to find ways to reduce bugs. No bugs, no defects, and the QA specialist can coach them on how to do that. That's the beauty of having a QA specialist. The primary role, the primary activity that the QA specialist should do, what is it? It shouldn't be testing. No, the QA person, the primary thing that this person needs to do in the team is coach the developers on how to do all this QA part. And the beauty of it is that 6 months down the line, the QA specialist can just move to another team. No longer needed because the developers now have all the knowledge, skills, accesses required. They are now QA specialists, and also developers. They can do both things. And then you have a fully cross-functional and self-managed team, which brings me to my next point. If you want more tips, insights on Agile, Scrum, personal growth, click on the video that stands out the most on the screen right now, and I'll see you in a few seconds.